Thomas was born in Wales in 1914 and was buried in Wales in 1953. He was only 39 when he died, but he had already become one of the most important figures in Welsh culture and literature. Today, I want to look at just one of his poems, his most popular, Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night. Now, this poem is a villanelle. The villanelle is a very structured kind of poem. So it has 19 lines divided up into 5 3-line stanzas and then a final 4-line stanza. And there are only 2 rhyming sounds in the whole poem. Every stanza has to rhyme A, B, A, B, A, B, A. 2 lines of the poem get repeated over and over. The first line recurs in lines 6, 12, and 18, and the third line of the poem is repeated in lines 9, 15, and 19. So there's lots of repetition, but somehow this repetition makes it very powerful. Hughes's poem about his dying father, Do Not Go Gentle into That Good Night, is the most famous villanelle in English. But it's a wonderful form, and I encourage you to look at 2 other amazing villanelles. Elizabeth Bishop's One Art, The Art of Losing Isn't Hard to Master, and Theodore Roethke's The Waking, I Wake to Sleep and Take My Waking Slow. Now, though, I want to listen to Dylan Thomas reading his own poem. We'll wait for just a second while we get the video.
Do not go gentle into that good night. Old age should burn and rave at close of day. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Though wise men at their end know dark is right, because their words had forked no lightning, they do not go gentle into that good night. Good men the last wave by, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Wild men who caught and sang the sun in flight, and learned too late they grieved it on its way. Do not go gentle into that good night. Grave men near death, who see with blinding sight, blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. And you, my father, there on the sad height, curse, bless me now with your fierce tears, I pray. Do not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. Do not go.
Okay, the first stanza of the poem introduces the central metaphor. The good night is death, the light is life itself. It also introduces us to the central paradox that even though death is referred to as good, Dylan Thomas urges his father and his reader not to embrace death or be resigned to death, but to strive for every bit of life that we can. Dylan Thomas is a master of sound effects. Some people even accuse him of being more interested in the sound than in the matter. Here, though, the first line has the alliteration of go and good, and also the subtler consonants of all those words ending in T. Do not go gentle into that good night. The second line is driven by the assonance of its long vowels. Old age, close, age, rave, day, leading into rage, rage. So all those long A sounds ending in that final line. And there's assonance, too, in the dying of the light. Each Each of the next 4 stanzas talks about a particular kind of man and why he will not go gentle into that good night. And each stanza ends with one of the repeated lines from stanza 1. In stanza 2, wise men recognize that death is right and natural, but they don't want to die because their words had forked no lightning. That's a great image. Their words haven't had enough of an impact yet, and they want more time. In stanza 3, good men recognize that they fell short of their potential, partly because of their circumstances, crying how bright their frail deeds might have danced in a green bay. And note the great assonance, crying, bright, might, and the alliteration, their deeds might have danced. But they want more life. In stanza 4, the wild men have made good use of their time on earth. They caught and sang the sun in flight. I think this image identifies them with poets such as Dylan Thomas himself. But even as they did it, they grieved the sun. Their wild songs and lives had negative consequences that they only recognized too late. And so they want more time, more life. Stanza 5 starts with a bold pun. Grave men near death. They are somber and serious men, grave, yes, but they are also men close to the grave. But right at the end, they begin to see that they could have lived differently, more brilliantly, and more joyfully. Blind eyes could blaze like meteors and be gay. And the lines are memorable partly, again, because of their sound, the alliteration of blind and blaze, and the assonance, blind eyes, blaze and be gay, right? Leading again into rage against the dying of the light. Finally, in stanza 6, Dylan Thomas turns to his father, asking for him both to curse and to bless him with his fierce tears, perhaps the most powerful example of assonance in the poem. Like these other men, he should not go gentle into that good night. Rage, rage against the dying of the light. The cultural influence of this poem has been significant. Since its publication in 1952, the year before Dylan Thomas's death, the poem has been meaningful for many people who are facing the death of a loved one or facing their own death. And recently, and very movingly, it was recited and referenced repeatedly in the film Interstellar.